Welcome to Beyond the Scream, the podcast where we deep dive into horror and the shadows it leaves behind. This month we're looking at Damien McCarthey's bleak and unnerving Oddity, a story of grief, revenge and the horrors that lurk in silence. So sit back, listen close, because the truth never stays buried. Hello and welcome to Beyond the Scream. I'm Emma Neal.
And I'm Robert Taylor.
Could you open the door?
What do you want?
You're in trouble.
What?
Could you just open the door? I am telling you that there is someone in there with you. Why do you want it?
He took my sister's life. I want to see what was going through his mind. You said I should visit on Danny's anniversary.
The thought of another patient showing up at the front door here.
Would you allow them in?
Of course not.
My sister would never allow a strange man into her home in the middle of the night.
She's saying some weird things to me, Dad.
She's clearly not well.
Do you mind staying out here alone at night?
I'm just telling you what I saw.
Danny's ghost. My dead wife is not haunting this house.
What is this?
Put them back! This is not real. As I've always believed, there's nothing that can't be explained.
Deception lies at the very core of Oddity's narrative, serving as both a catalyst for its tragic events and driving its suspenseful plot. The primary architect of this deceit is Ted Timmons, and while his extramarital affair provides the initial transgression, it is his subsequent and elaborate cover-up surrounding his wife's Danny's murder that forms the central deception.
So, Rob, tell me about the first time you saw Oddity and what your thoughts are on this creepy little film.
Yeah, I saw Oddity on the back of Caveat that I'd seen. That was Damien McCarthey's previous horror film, which I loved a lot. So I was keen to see the follow-up, and it's currently streaming on Shudder, and Shudder is the platform that I saw it on, and it's great. It's got all the hallmarks of a good home invasion and ghost story, really. And really spine-tingling, really chilling stuff. Yeah,
it really is. I went into it completely blind. I bought tickets for it as part of an Evolution of Horrors events, because it was up in Scotland. There's not always events in Scotland, so as soon as it was advertised on their Instagram, I went and bought tickets for it. So it was actually the UK premiere as part of the Edinburgh International Film Festival.
Right, so you saw it.
So saw it there, and I think it was like it was a really late night show, and it was like 11. I'm sure it was like 11 o'clock at night, and so I knew nothing about it. I knew that this was his second film, because I remember Mike Munter speaking about Caveat, but I've not seen it yet, and it's yet another one that's on the list. So went into it with no knowledge of who he was as a director, what his style was, knew nothing about the story, and came out of it however long later chilled, completely chilled to the bone, and nearly gave myself a black eye. because of one of the scares, but when we're chatting about scares, I'll fill you into that.
Excellent. So
Then, yeah.
injuring yourself in the
Yeah,
process.
yeah. Just a bit of self-injurious behaviour at the what's the one on Lothian Road? The Cameo.
Cameo, yeah.
Yeah, Film House. Yeah.
We did have the film house, but it's sadly no longer operating at the moment, although I believe it's coming back.
Yeah, I think I've given some pennies to the crowdfunder.
Yes, yeah, so hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, much missed cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the opening of the film is probably one of the most head-messing openers you can have in terms of where is the danger, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know if we want to set this up, but there's a renovation of a home between a husband and wife. Wife's at home. I'm forgetting the name.
Danny.
Danny's at home on her own and goes out to a car, leaves the door wide open. For a lot of the time we don't see a shot of the door. We just see her around the car, at which point she goes back in and there's a knock at the door and there's somebody claiming that there's someone in the house with her.
Yes, and they've got the peephole, little
yes.
slidey, not a peephole, it's a little
yeah, it's an old-fashioned slidey thing, isn't it? What's it? Yeah, the sort of little hatch thing. And yeah, it's a great moment of tension because it really plays with your fears of, you know, who do you believe? Do you believe the stranger at the door saying that they've just seen somebody enter your house and you need to get out of the house and you need to open the door immediately, or is the danger outside that door? And it's rather fantastic.
It really, really is. So the movie itself premiered at South by Southwest Film Fest earlier in 2024. And McCarthy's previous works, of course, as we mentioned earlier, were Caveat and also a short film called How Olin Lost His Eye, which I recommend seeing because it is really, really creepy. It's only 5 minutes, it's on YouTube, and it's very, very creepy and links to this movie too. And the film itself was low budget. I couldn't find much in the way of information about how much the movie itself cost, but obviously it's an indie film, and won't have a blockbuster type budget, but I don't think it ever looks cheap or done on a budget, and there are some really, really effective scares, and one of those is the terrifying wooden mannequin.
Yes, the wooden man is a life-size statue that appears to have movement when we're not looking, which is really in itself is great device to use on film in terms of, you know, what you don't see or what you might see out of the corner of your eye. You might see a shot where the mannequin is in one position and then suddenly you notice in the background that position has changed. You know, there's really good. You can play around with that quite a lot. It was designed by Paul McDonough, and again in terms of limitations of budget, I think you're right. There's no, you don't see that on screen. Everything's really, really well done. There's a lot of practical effects, which obviously I think help a lot with budgetary situations and I think this just having a central object like that, something that's got human form and shape but clearly not, you know, it's clearly meant to be inanimate. It's a bit ambiguous about how what his sentience is and what his ability is, and it seems to be used as a tool by Darcy, the sister of Danny, who is one of the central protagonists. Seems to be used by Darcy and her psychic abilities in order to really wreak revenge on what she already knows is the murder of her sister, deliberately done by her husband due to extramarital affairs. So it's a great kind of revenge slight to this.
It really is.
Ultimately, the this transcends to being a creepy object that becomes the instrument of the film, in terms of terrorising or affecting at least everyone else. Every other character remaining in that film are affected in some way by this very creepy looking wooden man.
And it's used so well in the poster for this film. It's that great shot of, it's a mirror shot almost of Darcy's hands on the table, and at the other end is his hands on the table, and they're looking at each other,
suggesting again that they have a sort of ability duality between the two, which is
And of course, speaking of the duality, we've got the fantastic Carolyn Bracken playing both Danny and Darcy, twin sisters. And I think as well, that's another thing that, as much as I hate using this word, elevates the film. I think because the cast are so good, the quality of the acting and the performances, I think, really enhance the production. We've got Carolyn Bracken, as we said, playing Danny and Darcy. She was fantastic. Caroline Menton, who played Iana, the girlfriend.
Yes.
Who was good as well. I liked her. I like her character. Although there was part of me, certainly when I was watching it in the house, and I was like, "You've got a fucking nerve being cheeky to her." Like,
yes,
you know,
yes.
who do you think you are?
No shame.
Yeah, she had a real nerve. And we've got Tag Murphy, who played Olin Bull, and Gwilym Lee, who played Ted. I've got lots of swear words for him because he was a monumental shit. And we've got Steve Wall, who played the seriously creepy Ivan. So through Oddity, we explore a number of themes. We have trauma, we have grief, deceit, revenge, there's gaslighting, but what really drives the whole movie is deceit and revenge, and I think we both want justice for lovely Danny.
I think with Darcy's visual impairment, naturally she would normally be perceived as the vulnerable person within an environment, a house that she hasn't been to, with people that she particularly doesn't relate to very well, and this idea that although she's physically, she cannot see, there's certainly supernatural elements and psychic abilities of vision and perception, and in which she's actually able to exert control over everyone in the household, in terms of manipulation, perhaps, in terms of creating mischief and eventual getting to the crux of who's done what, and someone having to admit to their, or unknowingly admitting to their own behaviours and failings.
Absolutely. And she's there for revenge and revenge alone. She's there to cause, like you say, mischief and havoc. And she wants, she goes in there, as we were saying, she goes in there in a position of power. She is not a vulnerable person. She is assured and calm and calculating. And
she's perceived as otherwise. I mean, she is perceived as being vulnerable, but she's absolutely not. And I think as the audience, you see that from the outset.
Yes. Yeah.
She is in control. She warns people in her shops not to steal items.
That's right.
Objects are cursed.
Yep.
Which we could possibly quite believe. She probably has got objects that are cursed.
Yeah.
So there's no inherent vulnerability about her from the outset, but people will perceive her as weak because of her disability.
Don't steal objects, don't steal husbands.
Yeah, yes.
That's just a wee message for Ilana.
Yes. If you're listening, Ilana.
Yeah, she's gone. She's
put, into the night. She
put pedal to the metal and just got the hell away from that farmhouse. It's a steading, isn't it? It's like a barn type.
Yes, it is.
Very
it's
grand.
a steading. It's a lovely.
It is. It's beautiful.
Lovely setup. Yes.
It is. It's really... I really liked the shot at the start. It kind of reminded me of The Shining. It was kind of overhead shot as they were driving into this courtyard.
Yes.
Yeah, it just, when I was watching it for the second time.
Echoes of The Shining.
Yeah,
And that sort of all-seeing
the house sees
motif.
everything.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings us on to another of the themes that is very strong within the movie of sight and perceptions, and we've spoken a little bit about it, but the film is about bearing witness to horror, and we see that from the very, very beginning, where Danny's camera is capturing. It's like it's constantly clicking, isn't it? It must be a time lapse type.
Yeah, I think
type
it's
thing.
a time lapse to allow for. Again, I think you sort of related it. You were saying about, she's trying to capture if there is a presence, a supernatural entity in the house.
I was worried that she was doing some kind of wanky Instagram home renovation.
Maybe, but she never got round to posting it.
No, she never did.
So, but the caveat to that.
Oh, nice.
Let's see, was that it isn't the supernatural presence that she captures. It is indeed an intruder in the house eventually, and it is at that point she realises, and we talk about that opening scene, that the person at the door has indeed been telling the truth and trying to
warn her,
get her to safety, that someone has actually entered her house. It's through the lens of the camera that she realises she's in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Not through her. Again, I don't know if that might tie into the theme of what we see and what we don't see, and that sort of motif that goes through the film. But in reality, without the lens of a camera, she can't see anything. But she sees through this device that she isn't on her own in the house. It's a very frightening sequence.
It's so scary. So she's then bearing witness to her own death.
Yes.
In a way.
Moments before.
Yeah.
Before it happens. Yeah.
Oh, it's awful. That is. I think that was the jump scare when she opens the tent. So I was sat in it. If listeners, if you imagine, I'm going to paint pictures with words here.
Yeah.
So if you imagine sat on a cinema seat, I had my knees clutched up to my chest. I was holding on to my knees. The face kind of comes into screen, and I threw my legs up and missed my face by maybe an inch, so nearly walked out of the cinema with a black eye, with a shiner, because of that jump scare.
I just think that's completely irresponsible. Your position and posture in a seat is clearly not in line with what health and safety ergonomics would tell us. You don't sit with your knees up on a cinema seat.
I know.
Otherwise, you might end up with a black eye.
I might, yes. In fact, I might have to bill Damien McCarthy for that trauma.
I don't think he's got anything to worry about. You're responsible for your seat and posture within a cinema.
So we've got Danny's camera, which captures the horror of those, and it's a short sequence. It's only a few minutes. It's flashback. It's what we see, because in that first scene it cuts away. She stands back she goes to open the door, and then it just cuts away. So we don't know.
Yes, that's right.
Later on.
The scene is actually split, isn't it? It takes a while to get to that scene.
It does. Yeah.
So it's quite. In a way, maybe it shouldn't work, because they actually split it up. The narrative and the time frames are split, which you would think would otherwise completely kill the tension. But it doesn't. It's quite a brave thing to do, actually, is to interrupt a sequence like that. I hadn't considered that before right now. But yeah, that sequence is interrupted, and you think those kind of sequences are the ones that you want to build on the tension. You want to keep that going. Well, they don't. They disrupt it, but it still works.
It does.
That's quite unusual. I just hadn't really thought of that before now. Yeah, that's
well done, Damien McCarthy.
Absolutely. I don't think it takes a brave person, I think, to cut away if you're already expertly raising tension and suspense.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last thing you want to do is risk deadening that in any way whatsoever. So I think that's quite, I don't know whether it was intended or not. I'm sure it was, because it'll be scripted, it'll be constructed. But yeah, how do you go into a sequence like that and decide that you're going to split it up into different parts? It's that's quite impressive.
Yeah, what a payoff. And continuing on with that kind of chat around sight and perceptions, we see Darcy, who is a witness. She sees everything, not conventionally, if you like. It's supernaturally. She's doing that through objects. Now, you know the word for being able to...
Psychometry, which is the capacity to glean information from objects through touch or within environments. So yeah, there is that sense of the ability to see things that perhaps other people aren't able to see. There's kind of that touches on, you can go back to films like Don't Look Now in 1973. There's the psychic woman who is blind, but she can see the fate of Donald Sutherland. Ultimately, she's trying to warn the family. So there's similarities there, in terms of when someone's visually impaired, their sensory perceptions are perhaps otherworldly, or they're strengthened in other areas. So,
and I think what's really good in Oddity is they don't make a spectacle of that. Do you know her skills, her gift of this kind of supernatural gift is very subtle. She's not wailing and screaming, and her breathing doesn't change. She is cool as a cucumber.
Projection of energy or anything like that. It's very quiet.
She sits down. She removes her gloves so that she can have that kind of skin contact. And then she holds it, and then is transported. And she, again, as we were saying, she bears witness to everything. The truths unfold from these objects. And our favourite, the wooden man, the mannequin, he sees all. He's sitting in that house.
At the table.
He has a seat at the table, and he's in the house before Darcy is. He's shipped to the house.
Yes, that's right. He comes in a little... well, not a little, but...
He's in a trunk big wooden trunk, isn't it?
Sort of delivered beforehand. It's not very practical to carry a mannequin that size around, I suppose, so delivery before you arrive.
Oh, absolutely. Next day.
One of my favourite shots in the film is... It's down to that mannequin, and it's the overhead shot of the mannequin at the table, looking as he's been looking in the direction for most of the film, and then there's the shot again where they look over and he's actually looking directly upwards. There's been a movement,
and the mouth
is gaping open, and it's just it's one of the, again, I think it's one of the jump scares, isn't it? I think it's the film's just it's phenomenal.
It is. It's just so creepy.
Different subgenres as well, with sort of ghost story, because there is a haunting. Danny is haunting the house. She's there.
Yes,
it's evident she's a ghost. She's lingering. So there is ghost story elements. There's home invasion elements. There's the revenge elements that we get in a lot of films in the horror genre. In various genres or subgenres of horror. So yeah, there's a mixed bag there, and it all kind of glues together. It really does work. Yeah.
Yes, it really does. And the kind of the shitty glue who's at the heart of everything is Ted.
Yes.
And his lies and his gaslighting, and he is just the absolute worst, isn't he?
You need a character like that. You need someone, if there's going to be consequences, you want someone to suffer because of what... I think naturally a human emotion is to react to how we're treated or how we see someone else treated. So I think he's a good character for that reason. He gives the audience, some a motive backing in terms of getting behind Darcy and actually, because we wouldn't normally want anyone to experience supernatural elements. I think we wouldn't want to be in that situation, but we, it's that enjoyable aspect of seeing someone be played when they're not knowing that they're being played, and their sort of narcissistic traits themselves. They don't have any moral compass or code, but it's great to see someone of that ilk, if you like, being played the way that they are. It's quite enjoyable.
He's skilled because he is he's a
psychologist.
Yes. So he knows traits and the way that narcissists behave. So he's going the other way. So again, that's the gaslighting that we spoke about. I thought something was up as soon as he was still living in the house. Like, why would you want to stay in that house? But then he says later, when he's planning Danny's death with creepy Ivan, he said, he's asked, why don't you just divorce her? And he says, ugh, the worst line ever. It just made me want to punch him in the head. Was, she loves me. She'd never get over it.
Ah, yes, there's that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said for self-love, isn't there? And obviously, he's got quite a high regard for himself.
Oh, he really
she
does.
Would never divorce him because she's so in love with him. So
she'd never get over it. She couldn't.
Only solution is to murder.
And then he betrays himself because he loses that kind of pitying tone and says, and if she found out about Ilana, we'd never get to keep the house. And I've sunk everything into that place. Yeah,
so there's a cost.
There's just that just comes down to financial.
For the money, yeah.
They must have spent a lot of money on that.
It looks like they spent a lot of money on that place. So yeah.
And I think as well, his fear is exposure.
Yes.
Of him not being who he kind of pretends to be.
Any narcissist is scared of that. They don't want to be unravelled for who they are. They don't even want to believe that's who they are, so yeah. I
wondered if his fear of exposure was, sorry, I've got written down here, exposure is his fear and he's scared of losing, and I wasn't sure if he was scared of losing the girlfriend, Ilana, because he does beg her, he begs her to come back. Or is he just scared of losing the house? The worst thing that Ted's doing was give Darcy the eye because he sealed his fate.
Yes, yeah.
He's shot himself in the foot, really, hasn't he?
Again, he's not a believer, is he? So
that's right, yeah.
Why should he? It's got to be the arrogance of someone that doesn't believe in things that they can't see themselves.
And he says that, doesn't he? He makes fun of Darcy to Danny about these kinds of things. He's not a believer, as you say. He doesn't believe. Oh, he laughs at her in the shop.
Yes.
She tells him about the cursed bell, just Chekhov's cursed bell.
Yes.
And he scoffs, doesn't he? He really scoffs.
It's not just because I think, and I don't want to get my high horse about people's attitudes, but I think that says a lot for, we can't just not agree with someone quietly. We have to scoff and laugh at them, and there is a lot in this universe that we don't understand, And I'm not saying I'm probably part skeptic, part believer, but I think it highlights the arrogance of someone who would minimise somebody else's beliefs or faith or understanding in life, and it's not cool to do that.
No, it's not, and it comes back to bite him on the arse, because I've got quite a lot written about, so we could chat about his last few moments.
Yes.
I've got just the absolute arrogance and audacity of him when the bell is delivered to the house, which was an absolute, master stroke from Darcy. It was a genius move, was for her to have that, and he sits and he hesitates, So something has rattled him enough to hesitate pressing the bell.
Yes. Yeah.
But then he does it, and then he looks around and nothing happens, and he's got a really smug face. He's a good-looking guy. He's a handsome guy.
Yes.
And clearly a very good actor, because that smug face really, I had like proper clenched, like
ready to punch.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that moment of he's okay, isn't he? You know, he knows he's in power. He's in control,
won.
and he's won, and there's a kind of ambiguity about. That's that final shot.
Yeah, I love it
because
it's
an odd shot. It's quite frightening, but
because he's not behind him.
No,
you would typically in a horror film for that last kind of scare, if you like, it would be behind or ready. He's to the side. And he's just stood there.
Just kind of posed. It is that kind of that. Well, for me, I sort of relate to the M.R. James adaptations, the Lawrence Gordon Clark BBC adaptations of M.R. James, where supernatural entities are placed in the frame, but not necessarily near anyone. They're just off the side or in the distance, and there is that kind of the unquiet of someone being within that environment that's either not seen by a protagonist or is slightly seen out of the corner of the eye. That's quite unnerving. And I think it's got that quality to it. But it's a very odd shot.
And it's an odd looking ghost. I like it.
Yes.
I do like it. But it does remind me very much of so we were in Florida last summer. And what I liked about it was it reminds me of when you go on the Haunted Mansion, you're in your doom buggy.
Yes.
And then at the very end of the ride, your doom buggy is swiveled in front of a massive mirror so that it looks like you have a supernatural hitchhiker with you.
Right, very good.
And that's what it reminded me of. Very blue kind of scare. Makeup.
Makeup.
And it just, I really liked that. And that's what it kind of reminded me of. And he was a bit kind of almost kind of lurch looking, and I like that.
It's almost a comic book quality to it, but there's it's still quite disturbing. It's just unnatural, I think.
Yeah, it's the uncanny, isn't it?
Uncanny, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's very unnatural looking image of a person. Or something, but yeah, absolutely works.
And it's not ambiguous. That is a haunted bellboy.
Yes.
Do you know? It's not. It's not.
We
know the story.
It doesn't play around. That's the story that goes with the bell. We're taught that story throughout the bell, and that's what we're presented with at the end. So there's no messing around. That's who it is, and there's no ambiguity there. It's just about the fate of Ted.
And what do you think he's going to do to him? I like to think he's just going to twist his head and break his neck.
Yeah, snap his neck.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. So will we chat about Ilana's haunting?
Yes.
Because I came at it from a wee bit of a bit of an innocent, we were chatting earlier, I came at it from, do you think Danny was trying to protect her from Ilana? But actually, now that we've spoken about it, I'm like, no, she wanted to.
Yeah, I don't think that motivation's there at all. I personally, I don't. I think there's very deliberate actions being taken. There's motivation there. I don't think there's no.
She is absolutely terrified.
And there's no what's the word I'm looking for? In terms of empathy for the situation. She is.
Yeah, Ilana has no humility. No. She sees that as her house now.
Yes,
she has a right
absolutely.
to Ted. She's the lady of the house.
Actually. It's quite a psychotic attitude to have, is to just immediately know. Well, in terms of knowing the history of the house, and her, I don't know, just feeling that she owns it, having that place in that house. Most people wouldn't feel that. I don't think.
And that hostility to Darcy.
Yeah.
I just think is so misplaced. Like, who
Really,
do you think you are, lady?
it's really off, from the outset. Someone who you would invite into the home, a family member of a family that you're not part of, and you're behaving in such a way. It's quite.
And it affords Darcy the absolutely amazing line of when Ilana basically implies that Danny was stupid for opening the door, and
yes,
and Ilana says, I can't quite remember it. She says something along the lines of, "Do I look stupid?" Which obviously Darcy can't see her, and Darcy absolutely owns her and says, "Well, I don't know what you look like. You sound stupid." And it's just amazing. Line. You're just like, complete mic drop. Like, you've just put her in her fucking place.
Brilliant.
That madam with her swishy bob and her clippity heels on the.
Oh no.
She was at the premiere.
All right.
She was lovely, really nice girl.
Not at all.
Not at all. And again, another great actress. Damien McCarthey obviously has a really good eye for talent, because you don't like her. You don't like her at all. And, like you were saying, you revel in her fear because you think, oh, well, that's what you get. Yeah. And, the shot of when she finally manages to get out the house, when Ilana finds the car keys, which have been hidden the whole time, and she finally manages to get out into that courtyard, and she looks back, and the front door is open, and it's just black, and it's almost like that Halloween shot of Michael Myers, kind of the light just showing him behind Laurie. You see Danny's ghost.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a great ghost as well.
Yeah,
like it doesn't look, I think we see so many kind of CGI, black eyes, big black mouth.
Yeah, it's quite practical, isn't it? I think it's been done in shot. And
and she's just there.
Yeah.
And, it's just fantastic.
Great,
it is. And we keep seeing that face, that terrifying face. We see it at the end of the hallway, that long
so
corridor.
Long shot, isn't it, with the...
We see it on the camera, which is brilliant. When she's clicking, that's another thing.
It's another good shot. Yeah, it's another good shock, rather, not shock.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of really good, proper scares in this.
And inventive and fairly, or they feel new. There's nothing, because we get used to jump scares, don't we? But they were all kind of delivered in ways that were not expected. Testament to the film again.
Absolutely. And again, we see just how much of a horror Ilana is, because she is watching found footage of her boyfriend with his ex-wife. Well, not his ex-wife, his dead wife.
His dead wife.
Yeah. And she watches it, and she watches it again. She watches it a couple of times. And you're just thinking, what's your motivation for doing that? Are you,
I think probably having problems contextualising that she isn't the only person that, or she isn't the centre of the world, of his world, or hasn't always been the centre of the world. Maybe that's what I got from it, that she was rewatching, just that sense of disbelief that it's not just about her.
And Danny seems very different from her as well. She seems quite driven and kind of city girl, if you like, and Danny just wants to make this beautiful property home for her and her husband, and she's obviously caring. She cares very deeply about her sister, and she says something really interesting in her voicemail to Darcy. She opens it with, "We are connected."
Yes. Yeah.
Which I loved.
Yeah.
I just thought that is just
great.
On so many levels. The twin connection, and I think they'd been struggling to get signal, and then they finally find signal, so you can reach me, I can reach you physically on the phone, but actually our bond is probably transcends
That's
that.
Lovely. Yeah.
So that might give us a wee chance to chat about fantastic Darcy,
yes.
who is
star of the show.
She really is.
She's
Yeah, well done, Carolyn Bracken,
Yeah,
because you were
absolutely.
fantastic times two.
Yes, very much so.
And it's been done before in horror. We see it with Jeremy Irons in, oh my goodness,
Dead Ringers.
Dead Ringers.
Um,
Michael B. Jordan, just
yes,
most recently in
and
Sinners.
Yes,
Oh,
we've seen
boy.
it a few times in film, and it's generally it kind of works
Mm-hmm.
quite well in film, I think. Depending on what the device is, or what
Mm-hmm.
the nature of the device is for actor playing two different parts, but yeah, skillfully done, and we believe them both as different
Yes,
characters. I think that's the
definitely.
thing. If we look at performances, you do relate that they are two. Often if we see an actor, we relate that it's the same person. Sometimes it kind of takes us out of the picture, but with her performance, it's just it feels like two different people.
Yeah. And very physically different as well,
Yes.
which helped.
Yeah.
Danny has the kind of dark hair, and Darcy has that striking kind of
Yeah, she's
white
quite-
hair. It's
yeah.
just a seriously good looking girl, and very, very striking. And I've got written down somewhere that I hate that they both had such violent deaths.
Yes. Yes, I think that's
that
that's
really it really upset me that there were these characters. We don't get a lot of time with Danny, but
No,
we
you
do get a
don't.
lot of time with Darcy, and
We
we're
do.
devastated when
It's
she.
the idea that we're at that invested in both characters, even though one's maybe not on screen for a while, for very much time. Sorry. Again, it's down to that performance that or performances that you do really, you're invested and you feel for them. And yes, it is. It's a horrible way for them both to succumb to.
Yeah, it's just horrible, and the Darcy's grief goes beyond. It becomes a kind of metaphysical grief for her. It pains her. She's human. She's so hell bent on her revenge of who she believes has killed Danny, Olin Bull, and then once that, which is a horrific killing, it happens off screen, but you hear it, and then you see the aftermath, and it is just basically somebody's head's been
Yes, I think
mashed
again,
to pulp,
that's
hasn't
better
it?
than overt violence on screen is to see maybe the aftermath of violence or hearing violence off screen more effective than ever having to actually see something in full.
And I think that always lends itself especially to kind of indie horror as well, because budgets
Yes.
and you kind of the resources that you have, so directors can be really creative with sound, and the sound in this is great. It really reminded me of the Ring video. Those kind of high pitched kind of, it's not quite screams, but it's almost like a scraping and
ambience of,
of
noise
staticky
of some
and
descript,
just off. It doesn't sound. It's the uncanny, isn't it? It's an uncanny sound. And we see Darcy, make that mistake. We see two mistakes happen, I guess. So the initial mistake of her sending the wooden man to kill Olin, and then his glass eye is recovered. She then uses her gift, and she realizes everything. So she realizes she's made a mistake, and she says she will pay for that. So she knows she's made that transgression.
Yes.
And we get that amazing payoff of once she has fallen through the trapdoor and she's in her final moments, that Ivan turns up and she begins to command and control the wooden man through that fantastic kind of ritual movement.
It's got elements of folklore and witchcraft there, which is quite it's always good to see on screen. I love that kind of element, you know, being able to control something inanimate. Or the physiology of something that looks like a person that's not, you know, it's made of wood, you know, it comes to life. There's, sometimes, you know, you've got the, you know, you can imagine Pinocchio with that, you know, there's the sort of, bear with me where I'm going with this, but Pinocchio obviously becomes a real life boy at the end, you know, but the fact that he's a wooden object through the whole, you know, often things like that are quite, for me, I find them quite childlike, quite playful. But in this, it is actually quite terrifying. The way it's, that's where I'm going with it. You know, in terms of the way that this plays out, the idea of an inanimate or something that shouldn't be alive, that is alive, coming to life, can actually sometimes seem quite funny on screen or not actually come off quite well as it should. But in this, it really does so very well. And I think the elements of witchcraft and folklore, especially in Ireland, probably help a lot to that aesthetic of sort of, you know, ancient magic.
And it does feel, it feels ancient. With the sound that's used as she's doing that, it's evoking all kinds of imagery in your head as well as what you're seeing. And I think the absolute benefit of the wooden man not being overplayed throughout the film is that when Danny has that control, which, as you say, could be childlike and a bit cartoony, it doesn't. It doesn't at all, because we are we're devastated that she is in her final moments. 2, we're reveling in Ivan's terror, and he is terrified for being this absolute psychopath. He is.
I know,
terrified.
Because it is clear that man is not
he's coming
balanced
for him
in any way, and it's he is scared, you know. He's the sort of person you wouldn't imagine being scared of anything, but he is reduced to fear. And we were chatting as well about, you know, he's spared. He tries to escape, and there's ankle trauma in this. I can't cope with ankle trauma. Feet, ankles, and God, it's really hard to watch that stuff.
And the bone comes through. Yeah, it's just it really, really. I have to deploy fantastic Stacey Ponder from Gaylords of Darkness, her squint method, where you kind of close your eyes, you're only just seeing it, you can't quite. I wrote that down. I wrote ankle trauma, but he is spared by the wooden man. And we were chatting earlier, is it because Danny doesn't want to bring herself to murder somebody, or is it that her body just gave out before she was able to complete the ritual or the spell or the command?
A lot of it to do with, does she even have to murder anyone? You know, is the power of that beyond, you know, it's like, it's not an eye for an eye here, it's you know, this element of revenge, and having vengeance is just enough to say, I have this power over you. You know, does someone have to die for that? I don't think they have to. I think they just need to be told that actually they're not the strongest, most feared person in this universe. There's elements out with that.
I like
so
that.
I think I haven't thought too much about it, actually, to be fair, but I think in terms of, I don't think it's about her giving up or choosing not to. I just think there's not a need for him to die. I think it's,
just needs.
She's done enough.
I really like that.
He's not going to forget it.
No, you know? And he is, you know, he is then committed to the psychiatric facility, where he was an orderly, and a horrible orderly. He terrorises the patients.
Yes, and then there's that.
You know.
Yeah, that flip.
Of
reversal roles, isn't there, in that environment, which is still deliverance enough. You know.
And then he gets his foot chomped.
Yes, again, foot trauma. Actually, the worst foot trauma was Ben Wheatley's In the Earth, and it's an infected foot. And it's how it gets worse. I think that's the worst thing and then hurting your infected foot. That's clearly,
Yeah.
it's not just bleeding; it's oozing stuff.
Yeah, and you know how sore that is. If you ever get like a little infected finger or anything,
God,
you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You bump it off something, or even just turning your. I'm a nail biter.
Yes, me too.
So
yes.
I have been prone to little infections in my fingers, as Scots would call them, whittles.
Whiffles. Don't bite your nails, everyone.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
I've been trying for 46 years not to.
Yes, well, it's gel nails for me that have kind of saved me from doing it. Because I just think if I've spent 30 quid on a manicure, I'm not.
You're not
chewing it.
messing. You're chewing it up. Yes.
Yes. So he. We've got foot trauma. Foot trauma is horrendous. Evil Dead, pencil and nail
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Misery. It's hobbling. The misery. It's just.
We
I
should
think
do
the
Misery.
editing and violence like that is really good. I think, and certainly in Misery, I'm going off on different films now, but that Misery, you just get a glimpse of the ankle twisting right round. You don't need any more.
Yeah.
And it's
The setup. It's the setup. She, and again, Kathy, Annie Wilkes tells that she stood over him. He is so vulnerable anyway.
Yes.
So vulnerable.
His legs are.
I know.
Facts. They're like purple stumps.
Yeah, they do. It's like two.
So he's already vulnerable, but you don't need much in in terms of explicit violence. I don't think you ever need that much if you cut away at the right angles.
Yeah. So wrapping up this episode on Oddity, I think we're both in agreement that this is a pretty special film, isn't it? We're both suitably chilled.
I'm more of a fan of Caveat.
Yes,
that's definitely, and everyone see that as soon as they can, because there's some sequences in Caveat that I could barely open my eyes to watch. It's so well done. But
Squint method again.
Squint method, and but we're really, and we're sort of diverging into Irish horror that I didn't really intend, but there's also upcoming Irish horror, Ravaka and Antosha, folk horrors that sort of share some of the elements that come out in Oddity. There's certainly folklore in Oddity, Irish folklore, superstition, witchcraft, magic. I think it's a really, really atmospheric film, chilling, very well executed. The suspense and tension, it pays off in that film. It's phenomenal. Cast is fantastic, and for a relatively low budget film, which I believe it was, it's just an excellent piece of work, and along with various Irish horrors that are now coming to fruition, it stands head and shoulders above a lot of them.
Yep, absolutely. I'm just going to echo absolutely everything. There's no sequels or anything. I was reading a wee bit of bits and bobs online. There doesn't seem to be any sequels in the work, but I am really excited for what Damien McCarthey does next.
Yes, yeah.
He's definitely one to watch, isn't he? He's carving himself a nice body of work.
He is.
Wooden body of
work, yes.
And creepy bunnies.
Yes,
that's what I know about Caveat.
There's a creepy bunny appearance in Oddity, and it's a nod to Caveat. So people look out for that.
Kind of like that Inside Number 9 hair.
Yes.
I wonder if he's going to put them in all his.
That would be interesting.
That would be...
A little cameo appearance by the creepy bunny.
Yeah. So everybody, if you are a fan of Oddity, please feel free to connect with us on our socials. Tell us what you think. What was your favourite scare? Did it creep you out? Let us know.
You never knew how it would feel to be left all alone. Now you know